and this is LauraGYOGA. This week I had the privilege of teaching a Kundalini yoga workshop at my studio, and I just wanted to go over some of the information. Whenever I teach a class, I usually make some information and put it together on a whiteboard because I like to have something to visualize that you can look at, especially because a lot of my students aren't used to chanting, and Kundalini does a fair amount of chanting when you're doing your practice. This is a good way to give us a visual so that we can see what we're getting ready to chant, or you can follow along if you're not used to it. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is that Kundalini yoga is also called the yoga of awareness, and it's a lot about tuning yourself in, going inward and watching what happens during your practice, watching what changes, and creating space so that after each of the postures that we do, or the breathing exercises, or the kriyas, that we have space to sit and observe and absorb what's happened and what's changed. Now, over here on the side, I don't know if you can see that, but 1 through 7, I wrote a list of some of the main things that we use in Kundalini yoga. The first one is kriyas. Kriyas are sets of movements. It's usually an alternating movement between two different postures, and the kriya is meant to cleanse a part of the body, or to cleanse an emotion from the body, or to work on a specific physical location in our body. And most likely it's a combination of all of the above. The next one is asana. Of course, we're doing yoga, so there's a lot of different yoga postures in it. But you'll find in Kundalini yoga there's a lot more moving than there is static holding of postures. But we do postures sometimes. Pranayama is a big one. With the kriyas, they're really powerful because we put strong breath behind them, specifically our breath of fire, which we'll go into a little bit later. But we also do pranayama as part of our meditation to prepare before our practice and to wind us down at the end of our practice to make sure that we're not too worked up that we won't be able to sleep that night, or we won't go into shavasana and be able to settle well. The next one is chanting and the use of mantras. So that's what comes in over here, learning a bunch of different mantras. And Kundalini has a lot of mantras that we use, and it makes it really powerful when you get to do the mantra with a whole room full of people and everybody's chanting and the energy is really high. It's a good feeling. Then mudras. We do a lot of different mudras. They're positions with the hand that have different meanings and work the energy in different ways. We use them a lot in some of the meditations that we do. And then that brings us into number 6, which is meditation, and that's a really big part of Kundalini. The way that I like to teach it is with a mini meditation after each of the kriyas. And like I said before, that's your time to process what's happened during that kriya, what has shifted and what's changed in your body after doing that work and after doing that movement. But there's also a pretty good period of time at the end of your practice to work into some different meditations, and we'll give them a different focus depending on what we're trying to work on. And of course, shavasana is that final relaxation, that final meditation that we work up to. And the last one are the bandhas. Doing Kundalini is a lot about moving energy through your body, and of course the bandhas are really important to direct where that energy goes and whether we hold on to it or whether it moves out to other spaces. The 3 different main bandhas are the Mula Bandha, the lowest bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, the middle bandha, and Jalandhara Bandha, which is the neck lock, the neck bandha. Those are a little bit more toward the advanced side of practice. You have to be doing yoga for a little while to get the hang of using the bandhas in your practice. So if you're not used to that, don't worry about it. We can always get to it a little bit later. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is exactly what Kundalini focuses on, and it's focused very strongly on energy, like I said, so it talks a lot about the chakras and what kriyas work on your heart chakra or your throat chakra or your sacral chakra, or whatever one you're trying to work on. And in Kundalini they follow an 8 chakra system instead of 7, and that 8th chakra is the aura, is the energy around your body, not just what's in it. So they do some specific kriyas to work on that aura, to work on that 8th chakra. And a lot of times you'll see, especially Kundalini teachers will dress in all white, and they'll have their head wrapped with a white turban. And that has a lot to do with that energy that extends out from the body, from the aura. They say that when you wear white, it extends your aura out farther than it normally would if you were wearing any kind of other color. But we also like to wear different colors depending on what chakra we're working on, because each color is associated with a different chakra. So green for the heart chakra and that sort of thing. The physical end of the Kundalini practice is working on your endocrine system, which are all the different glands in your body, and each of those different glands releases a different type of hormone. Hormones are the way that your body sends messages throughout, and it tells things to work harder, or it tells things to pull back a little bit, or to change what's going on. So it's a really strong messenger system in our body, and if anything is off balance with our hormones, it can really wreak havoc on our mood, on our digestion, on our immune function, all sorts of different things. So we want to make sure that all of our endocrine system, all of our glands are working the way that they're supposed to, and they're all in harmony. So that's one of the big things that we work on with this system. That's the physical end of it. The actual Kundalini energy that you may have heard about, when they would draw it in pictures, they would make it as a serpent that was living at the base of your spine, and its tail was curled up to show that it was dormant, or that it was sleeping. And you can see the physical location is about the sacrum. It's the low back. It's that fused part of the spine. And then they would say, as you did your Kundalini practice, or certain types of meditations, or if you had a guru that helped you to focus on Kundalini energy, that you would be able to awaken that serpent, or awaken that energy, and it would travel up your spine. So it would go through the central channel in your body, the Shoshona, and it would go up through to the crown chakra. That was the ultimate goal that you were going for. But I think over the years, having people see that Kundalini was working on something associated with a serpent, and that it was trying to wake up this serpent, it made people feel like maybe it was something dangerous, or maybe it was something that you shouldn't do. But I think it was just the fact that sometimes we associate snakes with bad things, especially if you follow certain religions. Snakes are seen as bad. But it was really just a way of depicting that energy in pictures. Even though it's an energy, we can't see it, we can't hold it. It's part of what we call our subtle body, the part of the body that we can't see but we know is there. And the Kundalini energy is something that's already inside you. It's not something that you're pulling from another location. It's already there. We just lose the connection to it, and we have to do these practices to reconnect with it and reawaken it. So it's already there, and we just need to mix it up a little bit. The Kundalini is a specific form of Shakti. If you're familiar with Shakti energy, that's just the power that exists in the universe and within each of us. It's a really strong energy, and sometimes when we are pulled outside of ourselves too much, when we start to worry, when we start to feel depressed, that's when we get separated from that power that we have within us. When we do our yoga practice, we reconnect with that power, and that's when we feel really centered and really strong. So that's basically what it's about. It's about awakening that strong creative energy within us that we already have, but we tend to lose touch with because of the hustle and bustle of the normal day and different emotions that get in the way. This practice helps us to move through that and get back to our center, get back to that energy that we already have within us. And you'll see it's a very different practice. It looks really different than, say, a vinyasa class, if that's what you're used to practicing. But this is actually an older form of yoga. People were practicing Kundalini yoga before they even came up with the sun salutations, or a lot of the traditional postures that we know, like Warrior 1 and Warrior 2. This was the foundation of yoga before any of that existed. So try to keep an open mind and just go with it when you're doing your practice. It's all about experiencing and increasing that awareness of what's going on in your body, that communication between the mind and the body, and keeping that really strong breath, because that's where we get that energy from. Now really quickly, I'll just go through the 4 different mantras that I put up on here. The first thing that you're usually going to chant in a Kundalini class is called the Adi mantra. This is a mantra that expresses your respect and your gratitude to the teachers who have passed this down. And it's really pretty neat to think about that this practice has been around for so many thousands of years, and for a really long time nobody wrote it down. It was just passed from one teacher to student and then on to the next one, and they call this the golden chain. It was what continued that knowledge from generation to generation, and it's really neat that it made it all the way to now that we get to practice it. So this Adi mantra is the first thing you chant, and you chant it 3 times in a row. And the mantra is Om Namo Gurudev Namo. So you would do that 3 times with the whole class together. Once you get into your practice, some of the kriyas, some of the movements, you have mantras that you'll either say out loud or use mentally. And probably the most popular one is Satnam, S-A-T-N-A-M, and it means truth is my identity, or truth is my name, I am truth. So we use that pretty frequently in the practice. And then sometimes we take that Satnam mantra and we break it into pieces, into 4 pieces, which is Sa, Ta, Na, Ma. And those 4 pieces represent birth, life, death, and rebirth. It's all about the cycle of life. So when we do a meditation with that mantra, we usually touch the 4 fingers to represent that cycle. And it's very helpful to remind yourself that you need to flow with life, that we can't resist that natural pattern and that natural cycle that goes on around us. When we do resist it, that's when we end up in that place of struggle, of unhappiness. When we go with the flow of life, that's when we feel freedom, that's when we feel ease. That's a great meditation to work on for that. And at the end of class, we either say this poem or sometimes we'll sing it. Sometimes we'll put music on and sing along with the music. But it's called The Long Time Sun, and it says, may the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your